lecture. This lecture has been going on in our college for about 10 years now, and it feeds into one of the main goals of the first-year seminar program, which is to introduce you to the people we have in our college and the kind of things that we study, research, teach, and are interested in working with. And tonight's lecture, you are very lucky. We have Dr. Heather Shoenberger, who is an associate professor in the advertising department with us tonight. Dr. Shoenberger earned her bachelor's degree in psychology and creative writing from Drury University, her master's degree in journalism, Juris Doctorate, and doctorate in journalism from Missouri State. No, University of Missouri, excuse me.
Mizzou.
That's probably a faux pas.
Yeah, totally is.
Dr. Shoenberger seeks to understand the impact of the evolving media landscape on innovation, consumers, and potential avenues to make media content better and more relevant. One theme she's currently focused on is how exposure to digital media and the digital manipulation of media might explain digital advertising efficacy, consumer attitudes, health outcomes, and behaviors. Understanding the consumer's perception of authenticity and its persuasive impact may be very important to creating defenses against misinformation, digital enhancements, and other types of misleading information in the media realm. Dr. Shoenberger has taken a leading role in our college and at the university to study generative AI and how it impacts the society and, especially at our college, the mass media industries. This past spring, she authored and taught a short course about generative AI for the Alumni Association, which had more than 2,600 registrants and hundreds of people watching the live stream. They expected around 50 people to RSVP for it, so getting 2,600 was far beyond their expectations. And she has become an expert in this field and is teaching it in her classes. Tonight, you are going to get to hear a talk from her about AI and authenticity, why fake can still feel real. And speaking of fake, just for fun, decided I would ask ChatGPT and Flux Pro to make cartoon images of Dr. Shoenberger. There they are. Which one do you think is better? I kind of like the Flux Pro one myself. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for doing this presentation.
Thank you, Shannon. Hi, everyone. I'm going to can everybody hear me? I'm going to try to very awkwardly walk like this because I have 2 packs of microphones here. So if you see that happening, feel free to laugh if you would like. Okay, first, welcome. I'm so honored and excited to be here to talk to you about really anything. One of the things I wanted to make sure I impressed upon you is that at Belisario, you'll hear this around the halls, you'll hear this from Gary Abdullah, you'll hear this from everybody. The students here really consider themselves a family. And what I think is very true about it, that is very true. We hear again from alumni, and alumni are always willing to reach back and help you, which is amazing. This is a college, I think, that has that opportunity that many others don't. People love Belisario College. So my charge to you is, if you don't know the people near you, before you leave today, start to get to know them. They will be the people that are hiring and firing you. They'll be your colleagues. They'll be the people that you lean on, the people that you look for help, study partners throughout this entire college journey. So regardless of AI, we are a family. Oh, you guys want to do the we are? We are! Awesome. And this image, the reason I chose it to start off this conversation is that half of the image is pixelated. And half of it is not. So half of it looks like a real Penn State student, and half of it is clearly a pixelated Penn student. This is just a really good image to sort of get us started to think about the very blurred lines between what's real and what's fake in this space. So I just want to have this to set up the conversation. Today, as Shannon mentioned with her very gracious intro, I'm going to talk to you about the title, AI and Authenticity, Why Fake Can Still Feel Real. But I really want to tell you why this is important to me. So a couple of years ago, well, many years ago, authenticity started to become important to me for a couple of reasons. I started some of my first research straight out of doctoral school thinking, I don't know, many of you grew up with the Dove campaign, and you saw models that had different body sizes, different colors, different shapes, and it's become kind of a norm, but at first it wasn't. And what's unbelievable is that before we had ChatGPT, before we were able to edit images so easily now, as to be fair, we kind of always have been able to, with airbrushing. So if you could use Photoshop, you could airbrush these models. There would be an occasional argument from one actress who would say that she didn't look the way that she looked on the magazine, it had been airbrushed. And certainly in advertising, we were airbrushing every model. So when young ladies, or young women and young men were looking at these models, sure enough, there was no way for them to feel that that was an authentic presence. There was no way for them to ever meet the goal of looking like that person, because that person wasn't real. That is still the same battle that we fight today, but that's where where I got my start in authenticity. It has expanded to influencers and authenticity and the relationships people have with influencers that feel very much like friendships, but again, are fake relationships for the most part, or one-sided relationships for the most part. And it's now bled into generative AI and the relationships that we're building with chatbots, and all of this in a consumer behavior bent. Okay, let's see if I can go do the next bit. Okay, so have you, any of you seen either of these images? One is the Pope in a puffer jacket, and one is the Pentagon on fire. Has anyone ever seen the Pope picture? Viral? Is it real? No. What about, have you seen the Pentagon on fire image? I'm sure someone has at some point. But this is a cautionary tale. So I would argue that the Pope, there was probably a lot of skepticism when people saw the Pope wearing a puffer jacket. It just doesn't really fit the image. Maybe if he was in a very cold climate or something, right, you might see someone wearing something like that in his particular field. But the image on the left is one that's really challenging to say, is this real or not? And that is another issue we'll be talking about today. Just determining the authenticity of an image now is not very easy. Uh-oh. I don't know what's happening. It's restarting.
Oh, it's shut down.
Okay, everybody hold on. The computer literally shut down. So I don't know what to do. How did that happen?
I don't know. I guess we just need to wait for it to restart.
Okay, while we're waiting, I'm going to ask you a couple of the questions I was going to ask you anyways, but I was going to give you a couple examples first. So the first question I have for you is, what does authenticity mean to you? To anybody. There's no right or wrong answer, so just anything. Yeah.
Something that is like truthful and like true to your own.
Truthful and true to yourself. Yeah. Okay. What else? Yes.
A legit source of information.
A legit source of information is authentic. Yeah. Anyone else have an idea of authenticity? What did it mean if a piece of media is authentic? Whether it's an article that you read in the New York Times or an influencer post. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in depth in a second. Yeah. One of a kind. Okay. Yeah, that could be. Credible. Transparent. Let's just do like one or two more. Yeah.
Thoughtful.
Thoughtful, interesting. What do you mean by thoughtful?
Like there's thought that's poured into what you're portraying.
So are you thinking more of like, I'm an artist and I want to have like my artistic intentions into this painting and that would make it authentic?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm citing the dictionary definition of authentic, which is one of three things. Made or done in the traditional or original way, or in a way that faithfully resembles the original, based on facts, accurate or reliable, and relating to or denoting an emotionally appropriate, significant, purposive, and responsible mode of human life.
Yeah, that covers a lot. Yeah, for sure. Any other authenticity definitions? Well, one thing I will note to you, what is happening?
Keeps turning off and then coming back on, and this, and then it turns off and then it comes back on.
Should we try to get it
Yeah,
rigged through
I think so.
Gmail?
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna take a 2-minute hiatus here to holy moly, this was not something I was expecting to go wrong.
Yeah, right? This is weird. Geo, what the heck is Geo?
So I just go to my Gmail, right?
Yeah, you could do, this one. The other one doesn't. It's probably gonna
Was the
That was weird. That's never happened before in one of these presentations.
Yeah.
We appreciate your patience a lot.
We're sorry, the computer literally just died, so I guess it's on its last leg. I hope that's not foreboding for anybody. Okay, so let's get back to some fun things about AI and authenticity. So, show of hands. Who was AI the generator of the first Nike ad, or was it Nike? Was it AI? Was it Nike? What about the red one? AI? Nike? Interesting. So why did more people pick the Just Do It red one to be more Nike? What was it about it that makes it look more authentic? Yes? Okay, so the shoe kind of looks authentic. Is that right? What else? Yeah.
The red one's more tilted to the front, which you can see the logo better.
Interesting. Okay. And you think Nike would do that?
Yeah.
Like if they were pros? Well, fun fact, I made both of these in 20 seconds. They're both generated by AI. So it's really challenging to know. But one thing that I do want to note to you is cues. Oh, you know what else I want to note to you? If you guys have questions or you want to call out while I'm talking, I'm totally fine with that. This is a conversation between me and you. I'm going to have a lot of questions for you. And this is an area that everybody is still very actively thinking about. I'm always uncomfortable when someone calls me an expert in this space because it's such a new technology. I really don't think that even the people who developed it are technically experts yet. So we're all in this learning space together. So please feel free to jump in. Okay, what makes a photo of a person look real? Like, what about this makes you think this person is real? Yeah.
The AI does a good job at like making the lines in her face.
Oh, you know who she is, right?
No, I just.
Oh, you don't?
I just
Yeah, she looks like she has some imperfections, right? Yes.
I think it does a good job with like eyes and like reflections and stuff. It's not just like appearance.
Yeah. The reflections in her eyes are also pretty authentic. Yes. Say that one more time. Yeah, there's depth to the picture. Yep. Oh, and blue shirt, and then my student. You first.
I think the shadowing of the photo looks good, like the lighting, like the shadow and the highlights with these accurate to real life with photos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I just think the shirt in itself, like the way it's folded and not like perfect, it looks like someone wore it, and then also the way she's positioning her face, how a lot of people pose to take a selfie.
Yeah. These are all cues that we use, that our brain uses to determine authentic things, right? We don't rely really on anything aside from cues. Our brains are really lazy. And so all of the things you mentioned are cues that you use. They're almost automatic to make assumptions about a piece of media, in this case, a photo. Is this woman real or not? Does anyone want to take a guess? Is she real or not? I kind of accidentally gave it away. No, she's not real. But
Tell us a little bit about
Well, this dress is AI generated. My accessories are also AI generated. And me, I'm AI generated.
So she's one of the very successful, what we're calling virtual influencers. So they're fake, they look very human-like though, and they get really big sponsorship deals. How they work and how they lead to those deals are questions that we still have. Authenticity may not be one of the drivers. And authenticity, or perceptions of authenticity of human influencers is really important. We know that that drives purchase behavior. So, we're going to skip the second question because we already answered it, but do you care if an ad is AI made? If you knew it was AI made, do you care?
I do, especially like now that I'm like in college and like some of us are going to be going to college for advertising. So I feel like it's like at that point, why would I be here right now for something like that?
Oh, that's a very interesting question, yeah.
I think it depends. I know I'm not really answering the question when I say that.
You don't have to, you can dance around it.
It matters on what the product is, because if a product is made to like be consumed by humans, like especially food products, you're gonna want it to be like a real person. But if it's like a program or like a company that's like for like online sources, then I don't care if it's online.
Interesting. We actually have a study ongoing that's exactly built on that premise.
I do, because not like ignoring all the whole like scammy, like dishonest thing about all that, but it's like I already don't like being advertised to, so knowing that the company didn't even take the time to hire someone to make the ad and just like typed it into something, that makes me feel a little more like about it already. So I do
Yeah.
like it if it's AI.
Any other thoughts? Yep.
I do care, but it's just like an effort thing. Like, I don't, as the consumer, I don't want to buy a product that they didn't even care enough about to make an actual ad for. They just have a program to it. Like, as the consumer, that's not something I want to buy.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Any other thoughts on AI ads? Oh, yep, sorry.
I feel like what I'm saying agrees with most of what other people are saying, but so I'll throw on something else. When I see a company making an ad with AI, it tells me two things. Number one, that yeah, they didn't care enough to actually hire an actual person to make the advertisement. They just threw in a prompt into some robot and then published it as is. But also that they don't care about the environment. Do you know how much like water a lot of AI engines use to just run? It is destroying the environment. And granted, a lot of things are destroying the environment. That's not a thing unique to AI. But ideally, we don't need more straws to add on to the camel's back.
Okay, sure. Yeah, and you're right. The models that are trained to produce video and things do take a massive amount of energy. Was there someone over here? So all of the things that you have said just now are things echoed already by consumers who have been polled by brands, like Coca-Cola did an ad. Nobody liked that ad. The very first ad that was made by AI entirely was a Toys R Us ad, and it was criticized significantly. Well, it was also weird, to be fair, but it was criticized. And a lot of the same complaints that you have here, like, if they're not going to make the effort to make an ad, why am I going to make the effort to engage with this brand? It ends up hurting brand image. It really damages the authenticity of the brand. So all of those things are very real and being talked about in industry currently. So let's talk a little bit about what authenticity actually is. So it's tricky. It's a really complex and challenging concept to get our mind around. It's something I've been working on for years, and I still don't have a universal way to, oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry it's a bit of an interruption, but probably one of my favorite ads that I have seen poke fun at AI-generated stuff was actually a trailer for Despicable Me 4. AI, yeah, I hear all of you laughing, but this makes sense, I swear. Where they, like, Illumination made fake AI-generated images, and then as the ad progressed, they revealed that they weren't actually AI-generated, they were just drawn by the minions. So the joke of the ad was, if you are publishing things with, if you're just straight up publishing things directly from a robot, then you have no more creative skill than a minion.
Very interesting. Okay, so everybody this is a very, like, it can be a very intense topic. And for those of you, especially you, young man, you should come to my Generative AI for All class. You should sign up for it so that we can talk in depth about all of those issues, which we will. They're fascinating and definitely worth discussing. Okay, so back to what it means to be authentic. It's tricky, it's contextual, it's driven by cues. It's hard to come up with a definition of authenticity that fits every single situation. There just isn't one. It's one of the trickiest concepts I've ever dealt with, and it's one that I always tell my co-authors, like, it's extremely predictive as far as consumer behavior. Things that are more authentic tend to lead to better consumer behavior or more positive outcomes for a brand, but they're always context specific. They're never in a vacuum. So here's just one very easy example. We know, or we think we know, that this is a Claude Monet painting, a computer image of a Claude Monet painting. How do we know? How do we know that if we went to the museum and we saw this painting and it had Claude Monet labeled under it and it was like a real museum, how would we know that that was authentic? Yeah. Yeah. There are experts who have trained for years to be able to determine the authenticity of pieces of art, physical pieces of art. When we move into a digital space, that becomes much more challenging. But it's still basically the idea. Oh, this was very fun. So are we running out of time a little bit? I just want to impress upon you that authenticity is a perception. Every one of the papers that I work on, I never say authenticity something. I always talk about perceived authenticity. What I perceive to be authentic, like, let's imagine I go to Harry Potter Wizarding World. I was a big Harry Potter fan. And I'm expecting it to be the most authentic experience. I want to have my butterbeer like taste the way it's explained in the book, and I want to see like the characters and the spaces, and I want them to all animate the same way that I felt when I was reading that book. I could go and say, yeah, that was an amazing experience. That was so authentic. I love that. But then we could have someone else who also was a huge Harry Potter fanatic go and say, you know what, it got this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. I didn't feel like this was authentic. So it really is a perception. And it's a perception that's almost maddening to hammer down. But I just want to tell you a really fun story, and it does have a point. I was hiking on Mount Nittany, and all of you might have this very important moment in your lives while you're here. Has anyone hiked Mount Nittany? You know you have to watch out for bears, snakes, and mountain lions, right? One day, I found a baby mountain lion. And that looks really cute and really real, right? It's totally not true. But if you saw this in the context of a nature program, or if it was in the context of an Instagram that was like a nature Instagram, you might buy it because there's contextual cues around that may have led you to believe that it was genuine. Okay, So this is an area amongst, you are very versed in human influencers. They are a massive, massive business. Those of you going into advertising and PR, you will be talking about influencers ad nauseum. They're incredibly persuasive. They are seen often as very authentic. And the point here really is that authenticity is more about emotional connection than factual accuracy. Again, it's all about context. So we're going to watch this for just a second. How many of you follow Alex Earl? Okay, I didn't, but I looked for college student influencers. And what I want you to be thinking, and I'm going to ask you to contribute, is what makes her, if you believe she's authentic, if you believe she's authentic, what makes her seem authentic? How do I turn her volume on?
I literally was breaking my ever since today, and I stole this top from my sister. It's a tank air, and I don't know what the other thing, but I really like this tank top, so after the watches. The girl needs to get some sun. Problem is, it's just my face is orange, and obvious. It's not matching. Mr. Honey, come on, babes. I don't know. Something's going on.
So that goes on for a little bit, but going back to my question, what is it that makes, or what is it that you might think makes her seem authentic, like she could be an authentic person? Yeah. Yeah, she's self-deprecating. I mean, she's kind of an unreachable person. Like, she's extremely beautiful, extremely thin. What is it about her that makes her authentic, that brands are just like, yes, we're going to put our product with Alex Earl?
I think it's like she's kind of like exposing the part where she's like just for that video, for an example, she's like, oh, let me try this shirt, let me try this shirt, let me try this shirt. Instead of like waking up, I'm already beautiful, I'm already tan, I already know my outfit. Like she like is kind of showing the trial and error.
Yeah, there's a little bit of humanity in what she's showing, right? She's a little bit funny. She's showing some humanity. Like, I'm not perfect. I'm like trying to put these outfits together. Does anyone else have a comment about what makes Alex Earl authentic? And many people may not agree because, again, it's a perception. Some people might be like, that is the fakest person I've ever seen in my life. But just to note also, there are some insights from Stanford Business. Then to make influencers seem authentic, just add #friends. The reason I even pointed that out is, A, theoretically, we think that influencers work because they do come across as authentic in many ways. And we develop what's called a parasocial relationship with them. It's a one-sided relationship where they start to become like peers. And we know that if your best friend says to you, hey, you should buy these sneakers, they're awesome, you're very likely to buy those sneakers. So if an influencer starts to creep into your brain as a similar relationship as a friend, and they're suggesting all of these products, you're likely to try a couple. And that's what makes them so successful. But what's really interesting is that, again, marketers know that, and psychologists know that just little cues kind of override this idea of authenticity, like genuine authenticity. They give you these little cues to add context that lead you to the perception of authenticity, whether it's genuine or not. Okay. So I'll go quickly through the next few slides because we got a little bit delayed. But Real versus feels real. So this is a phenomenon that's been going on for a little while that I've been paying attention to on Instagram because this is an area of research that I'm very interested in, which is influencers. And there's a lot of influencers, I'm sure some of you know. I actually learned about this type of influencer from one of my grad students. They have entire influencer pages where they're looking for designer dupes. So they will go to Amazon and they'll pick out a bunch of dresses that look very similar to Farm Rio dresses, for example, and then they post them, but they're much cheaper. And there's a lot of business there. And the idea being, okay, it's a dress. Does it matter to people? So my question to you is, what matters to you more? Whether something is objectively real, like you're holding the real, you're wearing the real Farm Rio dress, or you have an Amazon dupe that looks very similar. It feels real, and other people may even perceive it as real. What's more important to you? Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly a fine perception to have. Yeah.
I think it's hard just because, like, I totally 110% agree with that. Because it's like, I'm not going to buy, like, $100 item if I can get it for, like, $20 or whatever. Get it, you know? But, like, also, like, the designers that, like, spent their time creating that original product, like, they're, you know, like, they spent that time, they put effort into that, and then just some random, like, Chinese company is, like, replacing it, you know? It's, like, it can be hard in that sense.
Yeah, there's a little bit of like ethical dilemma there on some level. Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And if that's important to you, then you're going to end up going with a genuine article, right? You're going to save your money and buy that. And if that is true, I actually, because of this very post, I ordered 2 dresses that looked almost identical and compared them. And the Farm Rio one is just completely, it's so much better made. And it fits so much better. Also, are you guys aware of like the Lafufu and Labubu dolls? My little neighbor has a Lafufu, and an eyeball fell out in like 2 minutes, you guys. Quality was missing. Okay, but this idea, again, objective reality, this perspective values facts and objective truth over personal feelings. And perceived reality, this viewpoint emphasizes how experiences feel, influencing personal understanding and decisions. So you have to really think about, like, does it really matter if I have the real thing or not? Like, it just depends on your own perceptions of what authentic in that space means. So AI and perception. AI changes the game. It's easy to put a Farm Rio dress next to a dupe and determine the differences, right? Like we can make it a very educated decision on which one we want because we can see and feel the differences side by side. That is not a luxury we're afforded when we're dealing with a lot of AI content. For example, realistic AI content creation the bar has been lowered. Any one of us who used to think that, I think I'm a kind of good sketcher, but art's probably not going to be my thing, but I really enjoy like doodling and doing artsy things. I had a student in one of my classes who was like really into decorating, and she knew exactly what she wanted. So she created the images with ChatGPT and then framed them. So she would have decor in her room. Like, it's lowered the bar for creatives, so you can now jump right into that. And it creates really realistic content. Another thing, it's fast and it's easy and it's free in a lot of cases. And it also spreads quickly thanks to social media. So one thing I wanted to go ahead and spread, obviously this is innocuous, and I was thinking about not using an innocuous example, but I was worried that it might actually spread. But this is an example of like Dean Denise Bortree welcomes a new puppy to the Belisario family. We could post this on the Instagram for Belisario and people would believe it. It's not true, but it quickly would disseminate, and lots of people would be like, oh, what a cute puppy, Denise. And she'd be like, I didn't get a puppy. I don't know what you're talking about. And you can imagine like all the nefarious ways that this could manifest. AI voice cloning can replicate human voices convincingly. In a second, I'll talk to you about some grandma scammers. And then challenging authenticity. This content challenges the traditional ideas of authenticity by producing emotionally resonant media. It is hijacking all of the cues we have used in the past to determine our reality. And so now when we look at a picture or in a virtual environment, it's really hard to know, or we're communicating with a chatbot, or we're listening to someone on the phone who's stolen a voice from somebody else that we know and love. It's really hard to determine the authenticity of any of that content. Also, yeah, okay. So why fake still feels real. I'm sure all of you are aware there is a lot of people who are literally falling in love with chatbots. There's even school principals who are starting to report that their students are in actual relationships with chatbots. Meta had a chatbot that invited this poor disabled retiree to an apartment in New York, and he died on the way there. It wasn't even a real apartment. And then I promised you the granny scammers. Your grandma, your mom, your parents may in fact get a voice message or someone calling to say that they've stolen you, and they'll have you like screaming in the background or like, please grandma, give me money so I can survive. And a lot of grandmas actually and grandpas and loved ones will fall for that because those cues are removed and they hear your voice and they're emotion takes over any rationality, and they're like, oh my God, my kid's in danger. That verbal cue is so poignant. So emotion drives relatability. Emotional content connects with viewers, making material feel genuine and relatable. We see people misusing this in the news all the time, not legit journalists, but people who are causing nefarious issues. There was a bunch of stuff with a hurricane, a lot of fake pictures of people not getting rescued and little kids with dogs, and people believed it. People believed it because it looked real and it really played on the emotion and the trauma of the event. Consistency builds trust. So these two top examples, they were both about people falling in love. How do you fall in love? You communicate, and you start to build trust with somebody, or in this case, and it's consistent. And one of the funny inside pieces of the She's in Love with ChatGPT is she actually programmed it to speak to her in a certain persona. And then the chatbot was very consistent in his responses to her, and to the point where he decided that he was going to go on a date with someone else, which obviously this is not true, right? This is a chatbot, and she got jealous. I mean, people, it's really hard to build a way for yourself to manage this. And then brains just prioritize visual and emotional cues over factual origins when they judge authenticity. That's always been true. It's just really, really poignant now. Okay, wrapping up. What does this mean for you? remember, authenticity is a perception. That's something I really want you to take away from this talk. It's shaped by how others perceive the context, the cues. This can be anything from how they perceive you to how they perceive a brand or an influencer, etc. And you, as content creators, many of you in this room will go on to be journalists, people making movies, people making ads, or coming up with a strategy for ads and people in PR. And you will be responsible for that perception. That's a really big responsibility right now. Trust is communication currency. This is an issue that we're seeing play itself out currently. Trust in media, the news media in particular, is at an all-time low. I think, as Shannon mentioned, I really, 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 I'm invested in journalism success. And I think if you journalists in the room can't begin to rebuild the trust of the people who are reading and absorbing your content, then we will have no way of ever understanding the real information, and our social fabric is going to tear even more than it already has. This is really, really important. Trust has to be there, and that's going to lead to a lot of the things you guys already said: transparency, making sure we're explaining, making sure all of you are equipped to explain what ChatGPT is, what Claude is, what all of these tools are, how they work, how they affect, where the ethical issues lie, and how you can use them in a way that will engender trust in your clients and the people in your readership and your viewers. You're going to be learning a lot of new skills, and these are the key takeaways. So start to imagine how you can use AI to build authentic stories and foster personal connection. One of the things I tell my generative AI class is the most important connection you're going to leave with today is the people that you are meeting, the actual personal connections. Embrace the changing landscape, because where there's disruption, there's also opportunity. Think about a couple of years ago, like you guys were, I don't even know if you were born, and we had computers in our dorm rooms finally. 5 seconds later, Facebook launches, and look what it's done. It's connected us in so many different ways, for good and bad. Industry trills, so this is a funny meme of a girl who's multitasking. So generative AI trends, yes, jobs are being replaced. One of the biggest pieces of advice I can give you is to become a hybrid student. Diversify your knowledge. Minor in something interesting. You don't even have to minor, just really start to learn in depth about something that you care about. Everybody in this room, nobody in this room is a one-trick pony. You didn't get to Penn State because you could only do one thing. You got to Penn State because you can do many, many things. You might have to specialize in one thing, but you can have little mini specialties as well. And I highly suggest that you develop those so that you can readily adapt to whatever we're about to face. And that's it, Q&A. Yeah.
Good job. You really rolled with that. I give you a lot of credit. That was rough.
Holy moly, and then we had well, let me take this off.
Yeah.